This video will show you how to replace the rear brakes, pads and rotors on a Cadillac CTS. This will be located behind your rear wheels. Let's get into it. Let's get ready to remove our rear wheel. To do this, the first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Now, once you've done that, remove all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts so we can get the wheel off of here. Now that we have the wheel out of the way, we have a clear view of our rear brakes. We're going to start removing the caliper from the area. To do that, the first thing we have to do is push back our caliper piston. This can simply be done using a small prying device. If you were looking at the caliper, you're going to find that there's a slot you can make your way through, pry up against the brake pad, and carefully start pulling out. As I pull the caliper out, it's forcing my piston in, and this is exactly what we need to see. Once you've seen this, we're making our way along the backside for our 2 caliper slider pin bolts. So as we look back here, you can see 2 13mm headed mounting bolts. I'm going to remove the first bolt, quick inspection, start it back in just a couple threads. As we remove the final bolt, let's make sure we're holding onto the caliper so it does not fall down. Once we have it out of place, we'll just give it a quick inspection, make sure there's no fluid leaks, and of course we'll hang it aside, putting no pressure on our flex hose. This looks good. Continue on to removing each of your 2 brake pads. If they're stuck in place, you can use a small pry bar to pull them out. Whenever I remove my brake pads, I like to give them a thorough inspection. I like to see if they're worn at an angle. If they are, we might have an issue with one of the slider pins. Now we'll remove our 2 caliper bracket mounting bolts. We have one down here, and we'll have one that's considerably longer up along the top. We're using an 18mm for each of these. Just as before, fully remove the first one, just a quick inspection, and then we'll just start it back in a couple threads. Just going to use my 18mm ratcheting wrench. We're holding onto the bracket while we remove that mounting bolt up along the top. Remove the bracket. For now, we're going to set this aside. From along the outboard side, we can start removing our brake rotor from the wheel bearing. We'll take hold of that, give it a wiggle, and slide it out of place. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installing any brand new part, of course, we want to make sure we clean and inspect the mounting area. While we're in this area, we also want to make sure we inspect our emergency brake shoe. First, let's start with the hub mating surface. You can clean that using a wire brush or even a small sanding disc. You can also use some parts cleaner. Okay, this looks pretty good. This looks good. Now let's pay attention to our parking brake shoe. Now we're focusing on the parking brake shoe. We want to make sure we have plenty of thickness all the way around this area. Make sure there's no damage. Now we can apply some anti-seize along the hub mating surface. A quick note about this is we just want to make sure we get nothing on our parking brake shoe. Right in there, make our way all the way around. Let's prepare the brand new brake rotor for installation. We need to make sure we clean all of our braking surfaces. One along the outboard side, a little bit of parts cleaner, a clean rag. Let's have a look along the inboard side now. As far as this is concerned, we have the area for our brake pads, and then in here is where our parking brake shoe would ride. Each of these two areas need to be clean as well. Let's get our brake rotor in place. We'll slide that on there. Now I like to make sure this cannot fall off while I continue on, so I'm just going to use one of my original lug nuts. Now it's time to clean and inspect our caliper bracket. For this, the first thing I always do is remove my caliper bracket tins. If you find you have a hard time removing them by hand, you can use a small pry bar if necessary. After that, we're going to remove each one of our two caliper slider pins. When removing these, we take hold of the slider pin. Typically you can give it a little twist, hold onto the boot located just behind it, and slide the slider pin out of place. Once you have it out of there, go ahead and wipe it down and give it a thorough inspection. Make sure it doesn't look like it's rotted or damaged. This looks good, so I'm setting it aside on the same side of the caliper bracket as where I had removed it, and now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. That looks good as well. Continuing with the cleaning process, we need to clean the inside of each one of the two caliper slider pin ports. Now, as far as these caliper slider pin mounting boots, they do not come out of the bracket without causing damage. Unless you plan on replacing them, be extremely careful. To clean inside of this, I find it easiest to take a rag, give it a gentle twist, and then carefully slide it inside. You may need to force it in there with something such as a small screwdriver if necessary. Like I said, just be careful not to cause damage to that boot. Double check the boot. It's not torn or damaged. Repeat the process on the other side. Continuing with our cleaning process, we need to make sure we clean each side of the caliper bracket where our bracket tins would sit. You can use a wire brush for this if necessary. Okay. Now we've cleaned this bracket, let's continue on with some high temperature caliper lubricant. We're going to lubricate along the areas where the caliper bracket tins would be. Just a thin coating will help here. This is going to help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. Your kit came with 4 tins, 2 for each caliper bracket. Line them up, press them on, make sure they're secured in place. Now it's time to lubricate our 2 slider pins. When we lubricate these, we're lubricating the entire smooth area here, and then we're making our way all the way up to this groove close to where my fingers are. That's where the boot would sit. By adding lubricant here, it'll help keep moisture out of the area. Slide it into the corresponding port, give it a little twist, working in that lubricant, and then of course do the same on the other side. Let's get this over to the vehicle. When we bring the bracket over, let's slide it over the brake rotor. Now we can make our way on the inboard side for the 2 mounting bolts. As far as installing our 2 mounting bolts, you remember one is longer than the other. The longer of the 2 will be the top bolt. Shorter bolt down along the bottom. Once you have them both started in, go ahead and snug them up. The torque for each of these will be 88 foot-pounds. Double check to make sure that's secured in place. Let's continue on with our brake pads. Now, when we go to install the brake pads, you need to have a quick look at the brake pads themselves. 2 of the brake pads will have 2 wear indicators on them. 2 of the brake pads will not. For each side of the vehicle, you need to have 1 pad with the wear indicators and 1 without. Now, the pad with the wear indicator is going to be the inboard side. We'll start there. Go ahead and slide that into position. You should not have to use a hammer to drive this in. If you did not clean the bracket well enough. This is good, so I'm going to continue on to the outboard pad. Both of these pads move freely. Now we're looking at the caliper. More specifically, the caliper piston. We need to make sure it's pressed all the way in. I'm just using this caliper compression tool. We'll just double check, make sure it's pushed all the way in. After confirming that, just double check for leaks. Continuing on, we're going to add high temperature lubricant along this piston area and along the backside of each of the 2 ears, essentially only in the areas that touch up against our brake pads. Let's get this caliper in place. As we start bringing the caliper into place, before we place it onto the caliper bracket, just pay attention to your brake flex hose. We need to make sure it's not twisted in a way that might restrict brake fluid flow. This looks good, so let's continue on. I'm bringing this over the pads. You may need to squeeze in on your caliper slider pins to bring this into position. Now, once you have that in position, go ahead and continue on to each of your 2 caliper slider pin mounting bolts. Once we have them both started in, we can snug them up and torque them to 44 foot-pounds. We can remove that lug nut. Now, one last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our wheel. We'll get the wheel in place. Start on all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts. Bottom them out, get the wheel safely on the ground and then torque each of them to 100 foot-pounds. Now I've got the wheel back on the ground, let's torque these lug nuts to that 100 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Okay friend, we showed you how to replace the brakes on one side of the vehicle. The process for one side is the exact same thing as the other. After you've completed that, make sure you pump up the brake pedal till it's nice and firm and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.